So in this video, I'll be taking you through the latest developments concerning the retrial of the nurse Lucy Letby. Lucy Letby is currently standing trial on one count of attempted murder. The information provided in this video is from the live reporting taken directly from inside the courtroom. Benjamin Myers KC for Letby's defence now gives the opening statement for the defence. He acknowledges the sympathy for the family of child K and recognises their loss. Nothing I do or say is intended to diminish that. Mr. Myers says it could be very easy for some people to approach that Lucy Letby must be guilty, or equally as bad, that they don't care if she is guilty or not. He says if that was the case, the idea of a fair trial would be gone. He adds this trial jury does not feature such people. He says they are to give a true verdict on the evidence, not one of emotional reaction or of sympathy or of anything heard outside the courtroom. A fair trial on the basis of the evidence is what this is all about. Mr. Myers says he wished to identify key issues for the defence, and this is an outline and will not be the same length as the prosecution opening. He says the defence speech will come after the evidence is heard in the trial. He adds there is no record of exactly where Dr. Ravi Jairam was or what he was doing at the time child K desaturated. He says there are three areas focusing on aspects of the case for the jurors to keep in mind. The first is how fragile child K was clinically. He says any baby born under 37 weeks is classed as premature. At 25 weeks, child K was extremely premature. He says ideally child K would not have been born at the Countess, but at a level 3 unit providing the most intense and specialised level of care. He says that could not be done, as doctors caring for the mother concluded the risk transferring her to a suitable unit was too great. The Countess was not the level of unit designed to care for the prematurity of the baby. The second area is the problems of care, including intubation. He says child K was struggling to breathe from the start of life and was unable to breathe unaided, which he says sadly is unsurprising given the level of her prematurity. He says it is known child K suffered an oxygen desaturation between 3:45 a.m. and 3:50 a.m. A reason for that would be the ET tube moved. He says the prosecution allegation is Letby deliberately moved the tubing. The defence case is Letby did not do that and has been blamed wrongly. Mr. Myers says they will look at how realistic the prosecution's theories are that Letby deliberately dislodged the ET tube multiple times during the trial. He says the third factor is to look at what people said and did at the time, and to decide whether that is consistent with what the prosecution now allege, in particular Dr. Ravi Jairam. Mr. Myers says Dr. Jairam was the lead clinician on the unit that night, the senior doctor with overall responsibility. Mr. Myers outlines Dr. Jairam's account, that he suspected the tube had been deliberately dislodged, and the alarm was not sounding. He says Lucy Letby does not remember specifically the events of that night. He says in the background of caring for hundreds of babies, that is hardly surprising if she did nothing wrong. He says the case comes to a pretty stark issue, that child K desaturated because Lucy Letby interfered with the ET tube or not. That depends on whether Dr. Jairam's account is true and accurate or not. He says if it is not, the jury cannot convict. He says the prosecution and defence are in agreement that the evidence of Dr. Jairam is crucial. Mr. Myers says Letby is not guilty of this allegation. He refers to the previous convictions. It is important these convictions do not prove this allegation. He says however much dramatic impact those previous convictions have, it is crucial that the jury looks on the evidence that happened on February the 17th, 2016. He says that evidence does not support what has been alleged. That concludes the opening statement.